Hey guys, it's Jaden. It is, I guess, week 112. Today's topic is going to be coming out stories and or advice that we want to give about coming out. um, this one's a difficult one for me. I feel like it's not difficult because it's difficult to talk about. It's difficult because I'm not sure how to word it to make it, I don't want to say like appropriate for all audiences, but like one, my coming out story doesn't just involve me, so that's something that I'm considering. Two, it wasn't as simple as me waking up one morning, hearing something and being like, I relate to that. That means I'm trans or whatever. It was a process. Sorry, my contact just decided to want to like try to jump out of my eye. It was a process of being, I guess, deceived by someone. Hold on. Let me backtrack. Okay, so coming out. I've had at least 7 coming out experiences, even just dealing with like my sexuality. And as we all know, gender and sexuality are two completely different things. But through the journey of finding my sexuality, I was exposed to the language and more information about gender than I think I ever would have had I not been already a part of the queer community. From a very young age, I already knew that I was different. I was raised in a very structured, very religious, very Filipino, very military household. I was raised a Mormon. I was raised to be, how do I say this? That culture already, the Mormon culture, the LDS culture, already has its beliefs as far as gender roles go, as far as sexuality goes. On top of that, like I said, I'm Filipino, and within the Filipino culture, at least in my family, it's very matriarchal. So being a woman is very, as much as it seems like when we come here to the States, we're very like subservient, or that's interesting. The women are very subservient. They appear to be very subservient. Americans think that they are. But in the Philippines, they fit into their gender role, but they're powerful women, you know. And coming here to the States, my mom, she immediately knew that because not only am I Filipino, but I'm half black, and we came here, you know, as immigrants, and she knew the diversity that I would face already. She didn't want to add me being not able to assimilate to the culture, so she enforced this extreme idea of what it meant to be a girl from like a very young age, and she forced me into a lot of these boxes. And I remember from like 3 or 4 years old watching a country movie with my dad, a Western movie with my dad, and it was what's his name now? John Wayne. And I remember looking at him in like a broad scope and thinking about how I wanted to be like that. And I associated his actions and his mentality that he was like, you know, showing me through his acting, his personality, his morals, his whatever. I wanted to emulate that. I wanted to be that, and I thought that that's what that meant to be a man. So after watching that movie, I went to my mom and was like, Mom, I want a cowboy haircut. And to me, I associated that with, like, the haircut that boys have, and that was, like, the first, I guess, instance for me of coming out to my mom. And through the years, through my childhood, through my adolescence, I became more aware of my differences with other people. I became more aware of sexuality. I became more aware of gender, and I became more aware of all these things. And like I said, there was a process of me coming out. There were many, many, many times where I came out to my mom as I'm bi, or I'm lesbian, or I'm this, or I'm that, or my friends would come out to my mom and be like, hey, your child's this or that. My mom would be like, oh, no, 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 no. But actually, for real. Growing up, I wasn't exposed to the proper terminology for gender differences or anything like that, besides very, I don't know, there's slurs in Tagalog, so I'm sure there's slurs in English, but that was like the only exposure that I had to that kind of thing. And I never wanted to, like, associate myself with anything negative. So I kind of just buried that for a long time until, like I was saying at the beginning of this video, I was in a relationship where I was deceived about something. And the reason that this person gave me about deceiving me and lying to me was they needed to experience a guy, a man, in their relationship that they were in. And that's when it, like, occurred to me and clicked to me, like, why can't I be that? I am that. That makes no sense to me that you would go looking for it in someone else. And it was at that point that I began to, I guess, pursue more tangible knowledge about this kind of thing. And lucky for us, we live in an age that information is so accessible to us that we can have a question or thought about something and just, pick up our phone and be like, what does this mean? I mean, granted, this was like 6, almost 7 years ago at this point. It wasn't as easy at that point. We had to, actually open up a laptop and do some physical work. But I got some information, and my first peek into this world that I'm living in now was watching Skylar on YouTube. And I'm sure a lot of us have watched his videos and probably have, like, the same experience as I did. It was like coming into this world of living in black and white, and all of a sudden I'm not in Kansas anymore, and everything's in fucking, ultra bright HD color, and I'm understanding all of these different things about society and gender and the gender spectrum and all of these things, and then I'm understanding where I fall in that. And it was amazing to have that insight, because some person decided to record themselves and talk about these things. And to this day, I'm still so thankful for Skylar. I hope that I'm able to meet him and actually, like, thank him in person for everything. But yeah, anyway, that was when I came out to myself, was watching his videos. And then I re-came out to my partner at the time, because in that fight that we had, I was like, well, I'm that man. And that was like a semi-coming out. And then I finally came out in a very drastic way. At the time, I was presenting as a female. Extremely, I don't want to say, like, feminine, but I had these things about me that I felt like needed to be a certain way, and one of those things was my hair, and it was, like, almost down to my ass at that point. And I just chopped it all off and was like, hey, so I'm a dude. And it took, from coming out and starting to present as a man, and starting to use male pronouns, and starting to bind and all of that stuff, it took me 2.5 to 3 more years before I actually was able to start. No, what am I saying? I'm only almost 3 years on T now. So, yeah, it took me almost 3 to 4 years before I even came out all the way to myself and decided that I needed to, like, physically align myself with who I knew I was on the inside by medically transitioning. I'm not going to go into why I'm putting quotes around that. But, like I said, coming out for me has always been a process. And if I was going to give anybody any advice about coming out, it would be to allow yourself to meet yourself where you're at. And what I mean by that is, don't try to rush it. You know, I feel like the narrative that people have exposure to about being what trans means is that you come out, you change your name, you ask people to use whatever pronouns you want, then you go to a therapist, and then you start the HRT process, and then you go into surgeries, and then you blah 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 blah. There aren't steps to this. There aren't timelines that you need to abide by, except yours. And the only timeline that is when do you love yourself enough to accept who you are and accept whatever you need to do to align yourself with who you see in the mirror. I know that I identify as just, you know, a person that happens to want to look like what everyone else thinks is a dude, or sound like what everyone else thinks is a dude, but I'm just meeting me where I'm at, making sure that I enjoy the skin that I'm in as much as I possibly can so that I can go and enjoy this world as much as I possibly can. And like I said, there's no time limit on that. There's no, you have to do this by this time in order to, you know? And I think that's where I experienced the most amount of pain, was when I started comparing myself to everyone else's timeline. When I started comparing myself to where I thought I should be in terms of what I look like on testosterone. There's no timelines. There's nothing. There's just alignment. And there's just growth. And there's just experiences. And if you can remember that, this process won't be as hard as your mind can allow you to think it can be. And that's another thing. That's another piece of advice that I would want to give someone asking about transitioning. Aligning yourself. This is what I want to call it. That... I fucking forgot what I was saying. Well, it's not... Your mind can go to the worst places when it comes to anything. And you're going to be your own... That's what I was going to say. You're going to be your worst enemy when it comes to this. And don't allow yourself to be that. That's why I said meet yourself where you're at. I'm rambling at this point because, like I said at the beginning, I wasn't sure how to approach this topic. I'm also... I wanted to touch on this at the beginning, but I realized that I think I might be the oldest person on this channel. And I wanted to offer people who are more on that wavelength, the perspective into what I think it looks like, at least for me, alignment during this phase of life. In my introduction video, I said I'm married. I'm, you know, almost done with higher education. I've been in the military. I've done a lot as far as life experiences go. I'm nowhere near done, but I know that a lot of other people on this channel are just beginning their journeys. Not just their alignment journeys, but their life journeys. And I want to be able to give people who are where I'm at a voice. And if you guys who are, 25 and up, ever wanting to hear something in specific or have any questions about something that I've said in regards to your own personal experience, hit me up. I am more than willing to touch on it via message, via, different video, anything. Just be aware that I am aiming my conversation with you guys in that direction. So yeah, coming out. There it is. Till next time, guys.